Hi guys, welcome to Adverse 6 channel. Today we are going to focus on a leader called Mahatma Gandhi. Our topic is about stress coping and resilience. So, who is Gandhi? Actually, he is the leader of India's non-violent independence movement who kept fighting for the civil rights of Indians. And firstly, I'm going to tell two stories about Gandhi's reaction towards the hardships and problems in his life. In South Africa, Indians were treated as second-class citizens. They were called coolies by whites. Because of this unequal situation, Gandhi planned to go on a trip in a first-class compartment to make some changes for Indians. On his way to Pretoria, Gandhi booked a first-class ticket, so he was supposed to sit in the first-class seat. However, a European passenger saw him and complained to the station master, "Take this coolie out and put him in lower class." Gandhi raised his first-class ticket, but nobody cared and heard about him. So his luggage were thrown out by a police, and the train left. He spent a cold night out individually. On the next morning, Gandhi planned to go to Charleston by train, so he had to take a stagecoach. But he was not allowed to sit in a coach like other white passengers. So, Gandhi sat on a coach box behind the coachman to prevent from getting into trouble again. But after some time, the conductor of the train came to him and asked him to sit on a very dirty sack. But this time, Gandhi refused. Then the conductor started to pull him down and give him blows upon blows. Finally, some passengers came to him and spoke for him, and Gandhi was allowed to sit where he was. As you can see, Gandhi's life was filled with troubles and problems. The train experience made Gandhi realize that he should do something to end up Indians' suffering in South Africa. So he returned to India and gave a lot of speeches to wake Indians up. Many Indians decided to stand up and fight for their compatriots in South Africa. But the problem is that when Gandhi returned to South Africa, people got angry with him due to the misinformation about Gandhi's behaviors in South Africa. Many whites thought that Gandhi had abused them in India. So when Gandhi arrived, many whites used stone and rotten eggs to throw at him. They kicked him and they beat him until Gandhi is almost unconscious. Finally, Gandhi was saved by the wife of the superintendent police. She sent Gandhi to a safer place. As a solution, the government planned to punish those wrongdoers. Surprisingly, Gandhi didn't even complain a word, and this makes those whites to change their impression upon Gandhi. The government passed a policy that Indians need to register themselves by collecting fingerprint. Those people who refused to do so were all sent to prison. Gandhi led Indians to fight against this Black Act in a non-violent way. He was sent to prison like many other Indians, but he never gave up. As a result, the government compromised with Gandhi that if Indians voluntarily register themselves, then the government would repeal the Black Act. But this provoked many Indians. A man called Mir Alam threw a heavy rock on Gandhi, and Gandhi was almost killed. Surprisingly, he forgave this man easily and didn't even accuse him. Later on, the government broke the promise and even added a very heavy poll tax on Indians. So Gandhi started his Satyagraha movement to fight for Indians' legal rights. Those who caught him as a coward before now saw him as a hero. These are all about Gandhi's short stories, which indicate his endeavor toward fighting against hardship, although he has experienced so many problems and setbacks in his life. Let's next welcome Agnes to review one theory or model about the nature of the attributes Gandhi demonstrated.
Gandhi's story illustrates the master resilience model in 2001 and states that the combination of judgment involving threats and risks and positive reactions constitute a resilience. After Gandhi is kicked off by the police on a train heading to South Africa, though he holds a first-class ticket, he becomes much more determined to fight against injustice. The model helps us understand the strong will of Gandhi, because the rude treatment imposed on him doesn't make him flinch, but urges him to become stronger. Therefore, he can show a high ability in resilience. The three protective factors from the components of resilience also help Gandhi proactively react to challenging events. The protective factors include personal factors, family cohesion, and also external support system. After Gandhi is released from the prison, some Indians call him a coward, but he finally forgives them. Gandhi has a high ability in resilience because he has a stable emotion. It's usual for people to give up their actions when having no support from the others, but the component tells clearly that Gandhi can still maintain a stable psychological quality, which encouraged him to make more efforts in order to achieve his goal when being questioned by the others. However, there are both strengths and weaknesses for the above resilient model. For strength, it helps us understand people's adversities and their reactions in a more comprehensive and objective way, because we have clear directions and aspects to analyze the case. But for weakness, when we analyze people's case in such a rigid model, we may have less empathy because we become much more rational.
Let's next invite Ali to analyze the story with combining the review theory or model Agnes presented before.
Based on all the stories introduced in part 1, we could observe that Gandhi has been under a lot of stress and has faced a lot of obstacles in his path. But combined with the resilience strategies mentioned in part 2, we could see how Gandhi faces all the obstacles and is resilient against the stress all his enemies put on him. According to Maston's model of resilience, Gandhi is proven to have resilience because when he faces judgment, such as discrimination and violence, he is able to give a reaction to look forward and forgive. There are a few protective factors that Gandhi uses to face stress. The first one is personal factors. Gandhi once wrote, "If I had no sense of humor, I would have long ago have committed suicide." It shows how Gandhi has emotional stability. Gandhi is able to manage his emotions by thinking positively and having a sense of humor. Gandhi also has extraversion and is really optimistic. When being discriminated, he is able to look over this and continues despite all the pressure given to him. Gandhi once wrote, "I am an irrepressible optimist because I believe in myself." That sounds very arrogant, doesn't it? But I say it from the depths of my humanity. I believe in the supreme power of God. I believe in truth, and therefore I have no doubt in the future of this country or the future of humanity. This shows how Gandhi is an optimist and has confidence in himself and humanity. It prevents himself from falling into anger and from falling into stress. Gandhi also has strong belief in God and spirituality. He is able to forgive all the people who hurt him because he has deep belief in spirituality. By having a concrete belief in spirituality and the idea of God, Gandhi copes with stress well and has peaceful thinking. He is able to see things in a brighter light. His belief in spirituality, better social integration, endless love for other living beings, non-violence, truth, and moral values all can have significant positive impacts on mental health of individuals, which shows why he is able to cope with all the stress that he faces in the stories. Gandhi also has something called the non-violent solution he uses when he faces stress. When Gandhi faces opposition from enemies, he always faces them with non-violent solutions. Even when he had a chance to punish the people who hurt him in India, he chose not to, and instead he faced them with the non-violent solution. Gandhi once said, "My optimism rests on my belief on the infinite possibilities of the individual to develop non-violence." He believes that using peaceful solutions to face stress is way better than using violent solutions. Other than personal factors, Gandhi also has family cohesion as a protective factor. Gandhi gains a lot of family cooperation from his wife and his daughter. Gandhi used to have troubles with his married life, having arguments with his wife over political reasons. But later, they were able to empathize with each other. They become stronger with each other. So when Gandhi is being pressured and looked down in stories, his wife is always there to stand by him. Gandhi even admitted that if it was his wife who taught him how to love, by her constant support and even bearing him during his mistakes and the anger outbursts. Other than family cohesion, Gandhi also has external supportive systems as a protective factor. Gandhi gains a lot of social support because he is a social worker who spends time helping children. This helps Gandhi to build up positivity and also gains public support. Overall, we can see that Gandhi adapts a lot of protective factors and uses a lot of resilience strategies when facing stress. It shows how he is able to cope with stress and how he is able to face all the obstacles he has in his path. Thank you.
So, let's next invite Liz to illustrate 2 ways by which practice quality can be applied in real life or someone's career.
In part 4, I'm going to talk about how we can be resilient in real life or in career. First, as a university student, we may encounter many stressful events at school. For example, when midterms or tests are coming, we feel really stressed that we may not get a good grade. Even we have really worked hard and we are well prepared for a test, we still feel really stressed and afraid of making unsatisfactory results. Even for high achievers, they usually experience a lot of stress about doing well on tests. So, how can we deal with these stressful events? I would say we can utilize one of the protective factors, which is family warmth. By talking to parents, expressing all your concerns and insecurity to them, you will feel relieved. And also, the parents will give you support, empathy, and to comfort you, then you will feel you are not alone and able to face the test again. Move on to talk about the future. It is inevitable to encounter different stressful events in your career. For example, as a translator, imagine you translate something wrongly, like the important meeting documents. You will be scolded by the manager. And you are so stressed that you will make the mistake again and get fired by the company. I would say it is very crucial for us to be resilient, although we feel deeply sad or stressed, and we should not give up and just quit the job. It is of the utmost importance for us to face the reality to earn a living, so we cannot just give up, and we should find a way to adapt to the stressful events and bounce back to the normal states. By applying the individual factor, we have to think positively and be optimistic and try to accept the fact that you have done wrongly. And tell yourself everyone makes mistakes and you are not the exception. Nobody is perfect, and try to encourage yourself to improve and be ready to make the translation again. In this way, we can be resilient and cope with stress effectively.
Firstly, let me define stress. Stress, the moment you perceive you can't manage the pressure, whatever that pressure is, be it at work, too much work, relationship difficulties, your body goes through a stress response. So your body goes through fight, flight or freeze. And what's very interesting, what happens to the brain? For example, the moment your body goes into a stress response, 60% of the frontal part of your brain starts to shut down. And we need the frontal part of the brain for decision making, analytical. You think about the frontal part of your brain as the chief exec center of the brain. The chief exec center makes the decisions, thinks about the decisions, thinks through the decisions. Now, if you only have 40% availability, it's going to reduce your decision making. So without a shadow of doubt, the moment you become stressed is the moment your decision making abilities go out the window by about 60%. So you're going to be making decisions which are irrational. Interestingly, the part of the brain that's responsible for emotions, the amygdala, it stays on, it doesn't shut down. So you have 100% availability of the emotional centre and only 40% of the analytical. So is it a surprise you get annoyed possibly easier? Is it a surprise you may become more emotional? Because in essence, the front bit of the brain, left side more or less, tells the right side, stop it. But you don't have that availability. So it reduces your resilience. When your resilience decreases, your stress increases. When your stress increases, your resilience decreases. So within that circle, there has to be a point where you stop that. So what can you do to help switch that part of the brain that starts to shut down, the frontal bit, back on? One of the best things you can do is to step back, come away from the situation and start to breathe. Take what I call a 3-minute breathing space. So step back, move away, breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. So it's literally like this. The moment you do that, you start to change the stress response. You start to switch on that part of the brain, suddenly starts to go like this. And it means then you're starting to manage your stress, increasing your resilience. It only takes around 3 minutes, but you need to take responsibility for doing that. Most people who are in a stress response don't want to do anything about it. Their body's wanting them to stay there. So you have to make a decision, a choice to do that. Small things done consistently make a difference. This is the one thing, if you do it time and time again, starts to rewire your brain and increase your resilience.
So Liz also planned to do some interviews about undergraduates in PolyU. Let's firstly look at the first interviewee.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Bianca.
Hi, Bianca. So which year you're studying in?
Year 2.
Okay. So can I ask you some questions about resilience?
Yeah, sure.
So firstly, do you feel stressed about your university study?
Yes, of course. I sometimes feel stressed because we have the pressure of GPA and graduating. Yes.
So how do you deal with the stress?
I think first you need to schedule your plan and your timetable, and then you have to deal with your plans step by step, and then you have to realize your question in time and then take action with it.
So I think it's quite a good time management, is it?
I was not very good at it, but I'm trying to manage my time.
Okay, so lastly, do you think you're resilient?
I think yes, because I would feel stressed very easily, but I would take actions with it and deal with it. So yes, I think I am resilient.
Okay, thank you.
And the next one.
My name is Alan.
Hi, Ellen. So can I ask you some questions about resilience?
Sure.
First, do you feel stressed about your university studies?
Of course, there is too many assignments and I haven't finished them.
Okay, so how will you deal with the stress?
I will talk with my friends and family to express my feelings.
Okay, so do you think you're resilient?
Of course, I'm still moving on. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And the third one.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Sabrina.
So can I ask you some questions about resilience?
Sure.
First, do you feel stressed about your university studies?
Yeah, somehow because there are many tests and assignments that I need to work till midnight, and I'm so stressed about getting a good grade.
Yes, that's sad. So how do you deal with the stress?
Well, I like to eat and listen to music.
Okay. Lastly, do you think you're resilient?
Somehow, although I feel some depressing, but I try to look at the positive side of the thing.
Okay, thank you.
So, lastly, let's invite Anson to do a group reflection toward our presentation.
Throughout the project, we learn more about effective stress coping. Sometimes we manage to stay stressless, but we may be using the wrong method. For example, avoidant stress coping is one of the wrong methods because it only allows us to escape from the problems but not actually solving them. Instead, we should be actively pursue our source of stress and solving the stress so that we can stay stressless with a better result. For example, we may have a lot of assignments and tests in a week, but so we may want to abandon some of the tests so that we can put more time on other assignments. But that is not actually a good way to do it. Instead, we should plan ahead, do some more preparation before the deadlines of many assignments and tests so that we can have a overall average better result. Comparing to future workplaces, school is a less stressful environment because there is only tests and assignments that we should worry about. So we think preparation is a really crucial way to avoid having too much stress in the future workplace. So, for example, understanding our strengths and weaknesses so that we can cope with other colleagues. For example, investing more on our strengths and admitting our weaknesses so that we can have better cooperation with our colleagues and bosses in the future. And most importantly, we know our limitations so that we know when and where to stay out of the stressful situation before the stressfulness affect our decision-making ability.
So that's all about our presentation. Thanks for watching.